Okay. Hi, everyone. I got a question in about occlusion trends. So they asked, the question was to help understand occlusion trends and how to potentially train out of them. So that was the question. I think there's some clarification on this question needed. So first of all, what do we talk about occlusion trends? So strictly the word occlusion would be the blockage or the stop of, in our case here, blood flow to a muscle, because that's what we're looking at with NIRS. We're looking at a muscle. So I'm assuming by occlusion trends, we're talking about that you have an occlusion happening, that's the stop of blood flow. And then you have trends that are moving towards an occlusion, so the reduction of blood flow. And then we need to differentiate between a venous and arterial occlusion, because the venous system has different blood pressure than the arterial system. So you're going to have a venous occlusion happening much quicker than an arterial one, because arterial blood is under higher pressure, which is again something a little bit different. And these occlusions in the muscle, they happen, generally speaking, in activity when the muscle contracts and the muscle expands when you contract. And it pushes these blood vessels shut. So you have the muscle around the blood vessels and it squeezes the blood vessel. Okay, so you can see how the blood flow would then reduce. And at some point, if it going all the way shut, you'd have an occlusion. And that's what we're talking about when we mean occlusion, or we're looking at NIRS. And NIRS can visualize this actually quite nicely, both of these different, a venous occlusion or an arterial occlusion, or even, let's say, a reduction of blood flow that's happening. And it does this by looking at blood volume. So it doesn't look at blood flow, it looks at blood volume. And if you have it's not always completely clear because there's a lot of nuance happening. But some cases are very clear as to what's happening. I'm going to describe those. And if you see these things happening near signal, you're not going to be 100% sure that this is actually what happened, but the likeliness goes up. So if you in your near signal are seeing decreases in muscle oxygenation, but you see an increase in total hemoglobin, you kind of have a different thing. You're saying, well, I'm getting more blood volume in, but I'm getting less oxygenation. So you feel like, well, okay, what's kind of going on here? If these things are happening acutely, so you contract your muscle and bam, that's happening, the increase in your THBs, the increase in blood volume, is likely not happening because you've now, within a few seconds, increased the actual blood flow to the muscle quickly. It's much more likely what's happening is that you've stopped blood or reduced the blood leaving the muscle, which would be that venous occlusion or reduced venous blood flow. So what's happening then is that you have kind of you have this hose coming in here with this big blood volume coming in the arterial side and a smaller one coming out here the venous side, and the venous side's getting squished shut by the muscle, and much more than this other side. So what happens is in the middle here, it's like you stepping on a garden hose. You actually get a ballooning of blood volume in the muscle, right? And you kind of get that, you get a pump effect. You feel that. That's what you feel when people talk about this pump effect, is you get this ballooning of blood in the muscle. And so you notice that because it happens very quickly. So you know it's mechanical. It's not coming from a central process, or the likeliness is small. And when you stop the activity, you will notice that now when your THB was going up and your SMO2 was going down, when you stop, it crosses back up again. They kind of go, and that happens very quickly again, because again, you stop the muscle contraction, the blood vessels can open up, the veins can open up again, blood can go out again. It normalizes. So venous occlusions are actually quite straightforward to spot under a lot of conditions. Okay, arterial ones would mean that you actually close both sides off. So once you hit an arterial occlusion, you actually see nothing happening anymore. So the blood volume stays stable because nothing's coming in and nothing's going out. So THB stays perfectly stable, and SMO2 will just continuously drop because it's only the blood in there that's staying. Okay, so to get an arterial occlusion, you need a lot of force to get that done. A lot of people can't even force that to come, but it can happen. But the venous occlusions you're much more likely to see. So I hope that part is clear for everyone, what we're looking at on the near signal. If not, please ask me another question. I can make another video, but otherwise it's going to get quite long. So I hope that helps with understanding of what those occlusion trends are and what an occlusion is and how that looks in ears. Now, to the more interesting thing is if you have an occlusion, or limiting blood flow, that's going to have an effect on your performance, okay? Because we need oxygen and we need blood flow to maintain performance. So this idea of that an occlusion is a bad thing makes sense. We don't want there to be no blood flow. So the idea of, well, how can I train out of them is a rational thought to have. And the straightforward answer is, I don't know if you can, if that's